Hey everybody, I'm Sarah and welcome to my booktube. Today for my very first ever video, I'm going to be doing the booktube mid-year freak out book tag. I don't know when this was created, but it's a really popular thing to do, and I figured why not start my first video with talking about some of my favorite books, most anticipated books, things I didn't like so much, that kind of thing. So let's get started. So the best book that I have read this year, and if you follow me on TikTok, you know, it's The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi by Shannon Chakraborty. I read all of the Daevabad trilogy last year by the same author, and I loved it. I loved it so much that I have reread those books. And that's not something that I typically do. I'm typically not a rereader. And I even have started rereading this one as well, just to make sure that like I wasn't misremembering or that I like hyped it up too much and maybe it wasn't as good. It's just as good, if not better, the second time around. I loved it so much. I have both editions. I have the US edition and I have the UK edition. They are both signed. I cannot wait for the next book in the series to come out. And Shannon Chakraborty is an author for me. I will read everything that she writes. So a new book that I haven't read yet that I am really excited to read. I'm really excited about this one. It's called Starbringer. I just got a copy of it this weekend, and a good friend of mine also got a copy of it. So hopefully we will read it close to the same time and we'll be able to talk about it, because that's my favorite thing, when my friends read a book and then we can talk about it. Anyways, I'm really excited to read that one. It says right on the dust jacket that it's Firefly meets The Breakfast Club. I haven't seen Firefly, but all my friends like Firefly, and I know that I'd probably like it too. And I do like The Breakfast Club, but it seems like found family. It seems it's sci-fi, fantasy. I'm really excited to read that one. And the audiobook is on Scribd, which if you don't have Scribd and you're looking for another way to spend money on books, I really recommend it, especially if you do a lot of audiobooks and ebooks. Scribd is amazing. So the next question is, what's the best sequel that you've read this year? And the best sequel that I have read this year is A Shadow Crown, which is a sequel to A Broken Blade by Melissa Blair. A Broken Blade was a TikTok sensation last year, and I read it. Did I read it last year? No, I read A Broken Blade, I think, at the very beginning of this year. And then I got an arc of A Shadow Crown, and I really, really loved it. A Broken Blade was really good. There were some things about it where I was like, it's a little weird, but it was a great story. And I loved, this is not something that I think I would typically say, but, or I find it weird to say out loud, I guess, but I loved that the main character dealt with alcoholism. I think that was like, I don't think it's something that you see very often, especially not in fantasy books, which is what I mostly read. And I thought that was really great. And I liked how the author, like the main character, was very open on the page about her struggling with it. And I really appreciated that. The weird thing was that about halfway through the book, when the story and the plot was like really picking up, that kind of got pushed to the side. I thought that was a little bit weird. But in the second book, you know, she's still struggling with it. And I just really appreciate it. And I thought the second book was even better than the first book, which is not something that normally happens for me. Normally books get like second book syndrome where they're just not as good. The opening is like, the first book is like really wild and the second book kind of like falls flat. But for this one, the second book was better. Her writing was better. The world building was better. I loved the tension with the two main characters. I thought it was great, and I highly recommend you check it out. And the third book, I know she's getting ready to announce the title on TikTok. I saw that the other day. So the third book is hopefully going to be coming out soon. So most anticipated release for a second half of the year, there's two, and they're both very different. One is, I'm pretty sure it's a YA. I don't think it's an adult. A Study in Drowning by Ava Reed. I have already read this. I got an ARC of it from NetGalley, and I loved it. I can't wait to get my hands on a physical copy. I might read it again. It was really great. It was like, I really like Ava Reed's writing. I really enjoyed The Wolf and the Woodsman. I have not read Juniper and Thorn yet, but that is on my list of things to read. But I am very excited to get my hands on a physical copy of A Study in Drowning by Ava Reed. And the other book that I am very excited to read in the second half of the year is Iron Flame, which is the next book in the Fourth Wing series. I read Fourth Wing. I really enjoyed it. It's one of those books where, like, I can't say that, oh, the writing is beautiful, the world building is amazing, you know, like I can with some of the other authors that I read, but the book is like popcorn, and you just, like, you take a bite and you're like, wow, it was really good popcorn. I think I'm gonna have another bite, and then you just can't stop. I love a book like that. So I am very excited for the next Fourth Wing book, Iron Flame, which is coming out in, I want to say, November. My biggest disappointment of the year, and when I say disappointment, I read the entire book. I got an ARC of it. I have a physical copy. And the only reason that it was a disappointment for me was because I felt like the first book was a standalone. And I felt like it could have ended there. It could have just been a standalone, but then the author, apparently, I guess it was planned to be a trilogy, and so it felt like the author had to come up with a reason for the characters to, have a conflict and then resolve the conflict. I guess, I don't know, because part of it is centered around a romance, and that was Painted Devils, which is the sequel to Little Thieves. Little Thieves was great. I really enjoyed Little Thieves. I thought it was like, it felt like a standalone when it finished. And then at the beginning of Painted Devils, the main character runs away and like causes trouble somewhere else, you know? And like, I understand that the main character is kind of morally gray, a little unlikable, which normally I'm down with. As you can see, I really like R.F. Kuang. I am down with an unlikable main character. It's just, I didn't feel like it was necessary. But the second book did set up a third book, so we'll see if the third book can bring it back around. But I was kind of disappointed with Painted Devils. So my biggest surprise of the year was a book called Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. I saw some people that I follow on TikTok who really enjoyed that book, and generally I like the books that they enjoy. And so I thought, well, I'll give it a try. I think I found it on Kindle Unlimited, or maybe I borrowed a copy from the library. I can't really remember, but I started reading it and I could not put it down. It was so sweet and cute, and it was Regency era, so it was like a little Pride and Prejudice, like with fairy tales, not fairy tales, but like with fae, and there's like this mystery and this sickness, and I really loved the main character. The whole thing is that the main character has half of her soul stolen when she's a kid from an evil fae, and she's told her whole life that she's weird and that she like doesn't fit in, and she doesn't experience things the same way that other people do. Like, she doesn't experience like strong emotions and that kind of thing. And so like the whole book is her sort of learning to love herself even though she's different. And like there's a love story. It was so sweet and cute, and it was funny sometimes, and it was like really poignant other times, and I just really enjoyed it. I immediately bought the other two books in the series. I haven't started them, but I need to. So I think that my favorite new author is Tasha Suri. I read Empire of Sand. That was the very first book that I read this year. I loved it. Oh my gosh, it was so good. I immediately bought the next book in the series. I saw that a book that I was looking at picking up was Blurbed by Tasha Suri. I grabbed it. I cannot wait to read more of her books. I am waiting to read The ones, the Oleander Sword just came out a while ago. I'm waiting for the third book to come out before I dive into that trilogy because it's so hard for me to wait for a series to be finished. So I'm trying to wait until we get closer to time for the third book to come out before I start that one. But I have a copy of the first book in that series. But yeah, I really like all of her works. She's not a debut author, but she is new to me since I just read one of her books this year. But I am really excited to keep reading. A book that made me cry. I don't cry at books very often. It's pretty rare that a book makes me cry. I will say, for some reason, last year I read all of the Poppy War series. The end of that book made me cry. But the latest book that has made me cry is a nonfiction book called All the Living and All the Dead. And it is about a journalist who goes and talks to different people with different jobs within the death industry. And the writing was beautiful, and the questions that she asks were great. The responses were great, and like the interview style was fantastic. I really, really enjoyed that book, and it made me cry. A book that made me happy would have to be Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. It was just a super cute, sweet, fun story. I laughed a lot. There's an animal companion. It's kind of silly, but also like really cool at the same time. The sea is made of spores, which is absolutely wild. And I really loved the story being about the girl going to find the boy rather than it being a damsel in distress type story. It was so cute. It was so fun. And I think it's one that I would definitely read again. I think that the most beautiful book that I bought or received, I have a couple. I think I have three. One is both copies of The Adventures of Amina al-Sirafi. I think those are absolutely gorgeous covers. I bought the leather-bound version of Tress of the Emerald Sea just because I really love the cover. I also bought, I have a problem. This is why my channel's name is Sarah Buys Books. I also bought the like the regular version that I got from Bookmarks and of Tress of the Emerald Sea. And then the third book that I bought that I just really, really loved was Inkblood Sister Scribe, which you might be able to see back here in the background. It has these beautiful sprayed edges. I got the UK version because I liked the cover more than I did the US version. And it had the cool bees on the sprayed edges, which I thought that was such a cool... I love that part of the story. Spoiler, I guess, maybe, I don't know. But anyways, those are the three... technically four, I guess, if you count each individual book books that I bought this year. And the final question on the book freakout tag is, what books do you need to read by the end of this year? And I have a never-ending TBR, but some books that I am really excited to get to. I'm currently reading a book called Bow Before the Elf Queen. And I am loving it. It's really good. So I'm really excited to read the next book in that series. And I want to say that the third book in that series is coming out later this year, early next year. So there's that. I bought for my birthday, I bought a book called Sarah Land, and I'm really excited to see that. I have a couple arcs that I'm really excited to get to. I got an arc of Never Whistle at Night, which is a collection of dark fiction, indigenous dark fiction. And one of the editors is Shane Hawk. I read one of his collection of horror stories last year. So I'm really excited to read that. But pretty much I am very excited to read a lot of things, and I am hoping to get to read everything on my TBR, but I keep buying books. So I might never finish my TBR. So that's it for this video. If you enjoyed this, if you like my vibe, if you think we like the same kinds of books, then be sure to subscribe, like this video, and stick around for some more content. And if you want to tell me about your favorite books that you read this year, your biggest disappointments, be sure to leave a comment down below. Thanks for watching.